famous traveling performers. In the big cities, there were beautiful vaudeville theaters. Some of those still stand today. In small towns, even here in the South across the Ozarks, most towns would have a building designated just for traveling performers to stop in and put on a show. Those buildings were often called opera houses in the small towns, even though opera is not what kind of entertainment was usually performed there. It is where the Grand Ole Opry got its name. And then even further out in the sticks were what were nicknamed the Tall Grass Showmen. And they were called that because they would set up their tent or their wagon stage in a grassy lot at the edge of a small town, put on a show, and then usually not go more than 40 miles down the road tomorrow and do it again in another small town. So trying to keep those memories alive is what the Show of Wonders is all about. With that introduction, we'll start the show. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, prepare yourselves now for the amazement and amusement, for the mirth and mystery of the Show of Wonders. It is a splendiferous and bamboozling array of illusion, legerdemain, and prestidigitation. So, without further ado or ballyhoo, are you ready for the show?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. That part's really important to make the show a little more fun. I thought we'd kick the show off with the very first magic trick that I ever saw when I was a young boy. I was at the county fair, and there alongside the midway in the shadow of the Ferris wheel was a colorful tent with a hand-painted banner on the front promising the grandest illusions from all around the world. I paid my quarter, I stepped inside the tent, and I got to see my very first magic show. And in that show, the old magician showed me the very same trick that I am about to show you now. He used only a few things. He had an old top hat with nothing inside. It was absolutely empty. The old magician had painted a block of wood, white with black dots, to look like a die. He said we'd be using a die in this demonstration because dice are associated with games of chance. And what he was about to show me, he said, was as much a game as it was a magic trick. Now the only other thing he used was a little wooden box with two doors on the top. There were two doors in the front. Both sides of the little box were empty. The old magician closed 3 of the 4 doors. He put the wooden block inside. He said, "Young man, I'll bet you a quarter that I can make that block vanish from the left side of the box." I thought that'd be a pretty good trick. I put a quarter on his table. The old magician said, "Watch closely, young man. Abracadabra, and the block has vanished from the left side of the box." He slid my quarter off into his pocket. I said, "I think I know how that works." He said, "Then I'll bet you a second quarter that I can make the block vanish from the box. And this time," he said, "I'll open both doors." I didn't see how he could do that. I put a second quarter on his table. The old magician said, "Watch closely, young man. Hocus pocus, the first door, and now the second door." He slid my second quarter off into his pocket. I said, "I think I know how this works." He said, "Then I'll bet you a third quarter that I can make the block vanish from the box. And this time," he said, "I'll open both doors at the same time." I didn't see how he could do that. I put a third quarter on his table. The old magician said, "Watch closely, young man. Alakazam! The first door and now the second door at the same time." He slid my third quarter off into his pocket. I said, "I know how this works." He said, "Then I'll bet you a fourth quarter that I can make the block vanish from the box. And this time," he said, "I'll open all 4 doors at the same time." By now, I was pretty sure he was about to con me out of another quarter, but I was willing to give him 25 cents to see how he would do it. I put a quarter on his table. The old magician said no magic words at all. He simply said 1, 2, 3. And 4. The block was gone and it vanished. He said, "Kids, since I like you, I'll tell you how the trick works." He said, "What you just watched was an illusion." He said, "You only thought the block was in the box. It's been in the empty hat the entire time. And that," he said, "is a trick worth your dollar, kid." The end.